Thank you so much for joining me for this edition of Just Ask Jane. Today is a little bit of a sensitive subject, and I hope that I'm getting this out in a really right way, in a really spiritual sense, I guess I'd say. But Quartz, thank you so much for this, topic, because Quartz writes, the brutal death of an abortion and its effect on spirit. Does God love me? Is this a sin of murder? What about women who have had multiple abortions? And will that spirit come back to the woman through other births? Huge ramifications throughout life. Some people have them, some people don't. And Quartz, you're so right. I have so many people that come to see me bearing the guilt of having terminations of pregnancies, and they feel like they've murdered someone. But I'm going to tell you, if it was deemed a murderous act, so many people would be behind bars. And there are a lot of pro-life groups out there and that kind of thing. And I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I am simply answering this in a spiritual sense. I believe that every soul makes agreements with other souls to come here to learn certain lessons emotionally, physically, and mentally. I believe that we have 5 exits in this life, and that we can take that exit early if we wish. So in other words, and I'm going to use myself as an example, if for whatever reason I became pregnant and I decided to terminate that pregnancy, now I go to an abortion clinic and I have that done. I'm going to feel guilty, of course, everybody does, because so many people feel like they've ended a life. But some people really don't have a choice. But I believe that once I'm laying on that table and I decide to have that termination, it goes through, I believe that the soul had an influence on me to go through that. I believe that if I went to an abortion clinic and I'm laying on a table about to have a termination of pregnancy and I changed my mind, I also believe that to be the influence of the soul that I'm carrying. So, in other words, I believe that it is a soul's agreement that is kept. Now, I knew of a woman that had 2 terminations of pregnancies. So when you talk about multiple abortions, she had 2 terminations. First one being was that when she was 15, she became pregnant, and her father had threatened that he would kick her out of the home, disown her, and shame her to the entire family. Now, this is a 15-year-old girl who really didn't have any support from her family, who felt forced to have an abortion, and so she did. She never lived that down, only to leave home by the time she was 17 and become involved with someone who's very abusive. Became pregnant, and again had a second termination of pregnancy because the man she was with had threatened to leave her, had threatened that he would cause her harm if she did not terminate that pregnancy. Now, circumstances a little bit different. Unfortunately for her, she was very young and she really didn't feel like she really had any choice. This is a child here we're talking about who's really had no support, went through, having a termination of pregnancy twice, and has had to live with that guilt all of her entire life. So when she came to see me, I explained to her that these were kept souls agreements, and that really these children could come back to her through other lives, through other means, but I believe that these children can also visit in spirit. I have channeled many people who have been, or souls I should say, who have been terminated, only to find out that they were grateful and so happy to have given the living soul a second chance. And so they can come back to women through births. They can come through, spiritually speaking, when we're channeling, spirits, human spirits. But the thing is, whether having 1 abortion or 10, and some people I've known to use this as a form of birth control, Whether that's right or not, it's not up to me to judge that. But at the end of the day, I do believe they're kept agreements. Now, the ramifications throughout life really depends on the person's belief system. Some people believe that it's okay to do that. Some people don't believe it's okay to do that, and they still do it just the same because they don't feel that they can either afford the child, give the child a good life, may feel guilty about, giving the child up for adoption, having to live with all of these difficult decisions is bad enough without having to really carry out that act. But I feel so bad for people that do and that feel the guilt of that burden. Having to think that you murdered someone has got to be the worst feeling in the world. And I don't believe that it's a murder, because the thing is, we're allowed to do that in a society. And even though some people don't agree with it, it's still illegal legal practice in many places. Some places I believe that it's not, but I don't know enough about the laws throughout the entire world to be able to tell you that. But at the end of the day, God still loves you. God has created you in his image. You are a creator. You don't have to have children to create your destiny. And if you abort a child, it doesn't mean that you've murdered anybody. And I'm going to tell you, it is the most difficult thing to let go, but I'm going to tell you, if any of you out there have had a termination of pregnancy and you're feeling the guilt and the burden of it, first of all, you need to move on from that. You need to know that the child has made that decision that day. The second thing you need to do is give that child a name. Doesn't matter if you think it's male or female. If you're not sure, just give it your favorite name and just be thankful that that child loved you enough to give you a second chance. And I would live my life to the fullest, knowing that I'm going to be connected with that soul again one day. So don't worry about that. Give the child a name, forgive yourself, and move on. And know that if you have other children, that energy is still going to be around, or you may even have that child come back to you through a recycled birth, a recycled soul, a reincarnation. I want to thank you so much, Quartz, for this. It is such a sensitive subject. And again, I don't mean to offend anybody. I just wanted to talk about it on a spiritual sense and what my beliefs are and the beliefs of others who are able to channel through these spirits and these beautiful spirits that have given so many people a second chance. Thank you to everybody out there who's asked questions here. I just asked you, if you have a burning desire to ask me a question, but you're too afraid to, don't be afraid. Just go ahead and ask Jay in the comments section below, and I will see you very, very soon. I love you. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.